guys. So I wanted to share with you a loose laid plan that Tracy and I came up with. For those of you wondering, that there is the front barn. The back barn is in the backyard. That's why I call it the front barn and the back barn, just in case there's any confusion in, almost fell. Any confusion in the previous video. We do have two barns here. It's not just one. They're just painted the same color. This is treacherous to walk on. So there's the back barn there. And here's the house. So anyways, after watching the video back yesterday and talking with Tracy about it and thinking about like what our plans are and what we can do and how we're going to improvise and how we're going to change gears. This weekend is supposed to be in the 50s, so all of the snow is going to melt. So we have a brief window that we can kind of attempt to get something bigger back here. So what we actually decided that we're going to do, we have an old camper at the old house that was given to us that I've renovated. I've done different work in it. I've fixed it up. I've insulated it. It's basically just been a giant flex space of just constantly trying to roll with the punches. That's basically been the last several years for us. Life has just been sucker punching us left, right, and center. And it's just been constantly trying to adapt and overcome, and just trying to just keep going. But so anyways, in saying that, what we came up with the best idea for how we're going to house the chickens here, instead of cramming them into a barn, because wherever you put the chickens, they're basically going to adapt to that being their new home, and not going to be able to leave. So we don't really want them to be in the front barn because it is so close to the house. And then putting them in the back barn just leads to just constant messes and aggravation and irritation while milking, and just, it's a pain in the ass to have the goats with the chickens. Like I said yesterday, it works, it functions kind of sort of, but it just sucks. And pretty much everything that we're doing on this homestead is from the get-go. We're using all of our failures, all of our mistakes, all of the mishaps, all of the changes and tweaks that life has forced us to make at the other property to essentially learn from those mistakes, learn from those changes, learn from those experiences, to attempt to make this so that way from the get-go it is much easier, much simpler. Partially because we know that I am scheduled to have a surgery coming up. And well, it's not scheduled yet. I have to call, but I'm waiting until we move in here to then make that call to then schedule the surgery, because there's a lot of heavy lifting that I got to do still. But so in saying that, we've been trying to get everything as prepared as possible to set it up as easily as possible for while I'm recovering. So then it's not a super big deal to have weight restrictions for 6 weeks. It's not a super huge deal to, not feel that great for a few weeks. But so in saying that, Tracy had brought up that we should probably just try to move the camper here. We had talked about just scrapping it. We had talked about just donating it, just giving it away, just because we can't figure out what to do with it. It's always been, I gotta get out of the sun, it's too bright. It's always been one of those things where it's like, well, we have this opportunity, we have this resource, so what do we do with it? We couldn't figure out what to do with it. So anyways, long story short, we decided that that's what we're going to actually make into our chicken coop, because we know that that can handle the journey here. We know that the tires are good because we had to get new tires on it to get it to where we're at now. All this stuff. We know that the Envoy can pull it. We know that we can get it here. So that's going to be our plan. Our plan is going to be potentially to put it somewhere over in this area over in here for now. So the nice thing about it being on wheels is that once we do get a tractor, which is something that after we sell our house is going to be pretty high on the list to get. Once we have a tractor, then we can actually use the tractor, or once it's dry out again, we can use the tractor or the Envoy to then move the chicken coop again. So this weekend, I'm going to attempt to, cross your fingers and everything that we can do this. I'm going to try to bring the camper here. So I'm going to try to park it sort of in between the power pole here, behind me here, and the power pole up there, because this is a relatively flat area. And then since it's going to be warm out, I will be able to put in some T-posts to fence off. Ooh, almost went down. Everywhere that I've stepped recently has turned to an icy footstep, so it's very uneven, very slippery, very treacherous to walk. Very crunchy too. But so in this vicinity over in here, we're probably going to put the camper over in here. And then I'll fence off a small bit of pasture space for the birds. Just like our chickens are all bantams, so they can fly, they can hop a fence, they just do whatever they want. But it'll deter some of them from going out, because we have some that are silkies, some that are frizzles, that are much more prone to being attacked by, say, our dogs, and any other animal, because they can't fly, they can't evade capture very well. So that'll at least keep them safe, them protected, and that sort of a thing. I guess I'm just going to make my own path. This is just way too difficult, way too dangerous, way too sketchy to walk on for me. means my bum ankles can't handle all that unevenness. Even with the braces on, it's still, with braces and boots, like it's still, since the ankles can't twist very much with how I have to set myself up to walk properly, it puts a lot of strain and pressure on the knees. So walking on uneven terrain is not good for me. But so in saying that, after Tracy watched the video and we discussed and all that stuff, it's part of what I like about filming is that I can show her what I've been doing while she's at work, because she's only able to come out a couple times a week. So it's basically like every time that she comes, it's like this huge expansion has happened. Me and my magic wand just going boopity boppity boop, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom with everything. So it's good to have her be able to watch the videos along with you guys. So this area in here that I had started creating, I had started framing it out and all of this stuff. This is actually going to be, because it has a cement floor, ducks and geese are really disgusting. They make a huge mess. Their poop is like liquid diarrhea, just squirting everywhere. So it's a pain to clean. It's just nasty. So this area in here, we're actually going to use this whole space here for the ducks and the geese. So it might be that up on top here, we might keep this shelf in place. Not sure yet. That's something that will evolve as we get here. So this might be where we end up setting like the cages and the brooders and things of that nature when we have the babies. It might not be. I don't really know yet. Everything is so up in the air because it's just one of those things of things are going to shift. They're going to change a lot once we get here. It's just we have to get here. So this is still going to end up having a door built on it, probably this weekend or this week. I'm going to get more 2x4s and all that jazz to finish this project out. So this is going to be where the ducks and geese are at. I will end up eventually, to start out, they're just going to have a small door so that way they can go out back, which I'll walk around and show you guys that. Eventually, I'm not sure if I'm going to end up putting a big door on the back there so that way when we have a way to clean out the barn that's not pitchforks and my poor rugged shoulders that are just been in agony and stuff and my aching back. It's really hard to homestead. Like, homesteading is hard work, and then you add on having a connective tissue disorder makes it so much freaking harder, knowing that, like, yeah, I'm strong enough now to handle pitchforking and all this stuff, but like my body has sustained so much damage from doing this lifestyle and from working the way that I've had to and all that stuff that it's just not good. So everything has to be set up for making life easier. So even though I'm in my early 30s, it's pretty much like I'm designing a homestead for somebody that's in their 50s or 60s because of knowing what I know and having to do things the way that I have to do them. So back here is where the back side of the back barn is. Over in this area is where the ducks and geese will be at. We'll cut a hole somewhere in here so that way they can come out. I will have to grab some dirt or something to shove in that hole that's down there, if you guys can see that. I've seen critters coming in and out of there, like tracks. The only thing I've seen actually run out of there is a bunny rabbit. So I'm guessing that that's all that's living in there. But I mean, there's quite a bit of holes back here in this back wall that will eventually have to get patched in and fixed up and stuff. But you guys can see the tracks from whatever's underneath of the barn going and running towards the stream and finding a fence and probably quite a bit of disappointment. So this right now, we have this plotted out and fenced out this section here for the ducks and the geese to be able to use as pasture space. I had set a fence line here to make it so we had a walkway, a big walkway to walk back to the back part of the property. Originally, I thought that maybe I'd bring the camper back here to have as the chicken coop, but then I was thinking about the fact that I don't really want to drive the SUV over top of the septic, which the septic is there and right there. There's not a good big walkway there, so I don't think it'd be wise to drive a heavy camper with an SUV back by the septic tanks, and that is extremely difficult backing upping skills that would be required, and I am very much a novice of backing up a trailer, and this would be the first time I've ever actually driven anything with a camper on it, so it's kind of nerve-wracking. But so yeah, everything else is pretty much set up. It's pretty much ready to go for us to move in. Down there is where Burr and Ferdy, the male goats, will end up going. That's going to be tricky to get their hut here. I built it so it'll fit on the utility trailer, but it's like going to be a just barely kind of sketchy sort of a fit. So I don't know if we're going to end up... We have free trailer rentals from TSC because we've spent so much freaking money there on T-posts and fencing and things of that nature. We're one of those like plus members, or I don't know what it's called. I think that's what it is actually. But so we get a couple free trailer rentals a year, so we might end up renting a bigger trailer so it fits on the trailer better, easier. But I'm not really sure if that's going to make much of a difference because I made it slightly too wide, so it's going to have to lean and sit all cattywampus on there. But so in saying that, Tracy has a 3-day weekend next weekend. This weekend the weather's going to be in the 50s. It's going to be amazing. Next weekend, so this weekend is pretty much the final push for Tracy to get the plumbing stuff finished, for our contractor friend to get the shower installed, to get the water running here, to get the well up and going, I got to get the hot water tank moved. There's a lot that needs to be done. But yeah, I'm over the moon. It's to the point now where it's becoming extremely cumbersome to keep going back and forth to live there and have, so much of our lives set up here, and I'm spending the majority of my time here on a daily basis. So to have to do chores and then load up and then rush here, then unload, then work on projects, then rush back home to do chores, to then pack stuff up, and it's exhausting. Like by 10 o'clock this morning, I already had, I think, like 8,000 or 9,000 steps in. So I forgot to check before I started filming, but I know that before I left our house, that was at like 9, I think, I was already at like 5,000 steps. So I mean, it's a lot. It's very taxing to keep doing what I'm doing and not being able to sleep very well. So it's been fun. It's been an experience, that's for sure. But so yeah, in saying that, that is our loose laid plan, is that in this, it shouldn't be, there's several potential spots for the camper to go if I can't get it back here. So there's a 12-foot gate that gives us access to drive back here to deliver hay, to bring a camper, things of that nature. So if worse comes to worse, if it's too muddy, because over in here about halfway to that gate is where the big mud patch was that we got the SUV stuck in before, which I have new tires now. I'm really hoping that I don't get stuck, that I can just basically Baja my way through there and stuff. If for some reason I can't get it all the way back in over here, there's obviously plenty of flat ground up in that way that I can just park it and then fence around it. So not putting in fence posts until we get the camper here, so that way I don't have so many obstacles to try to turn around and back around and do things, because this is going to be a challenge. So I mean, the chickens obviously are not going to be that far from the house, but the back barn is not that far from the house. I'd guess that it's maybe 50 feet or so from there's an addition onto the house right there. That's where the furnace is at and all that jazz. So from that back door to the barn, I would guess it's probably about 50 feet or so. So it's not super far, but with the chickens being in the camper and stuff, if it becomes problematic, them being that close to the house, we can obviously move them. We can bump them out further. We can eat into some of the goats' pasture out there and just shove them that way. So the other side of the property is where I'm actually planning on putting gardens. So probably this weekend, once the snow's all melted, I'm going to show you guys around in that section, just so that way we can all see it together and come up with a plan. Because with me, everything goes based off of how everything feels. And it's so fluid. There's so much fluidity to how my mind works. I'm never locked in and trapped in on a certain thing. I'm always like, well, everything's up in the air. We'll see how it goes and stuff. So it's just kind of one of those things that's nice for reference to know how current me is like, this is a great idea, or wait, I noticed this at wintertime. That's a bad idea. Because originally I had thought this big flat space over in here, and then in the front yard there, I thought that'd be a nice place to put a garden, which it might if we do a proper amount of drainage and things of that nature. But in all reality, once that snow melts and the ice is gone and all that stuff, it is like soupy, muddy mess. So we're gonna have to put French drains in front of the house, somewhere in this vicinity. There's gonna have to be basically like a swale or a trench or a ditch that comes along this way and then goes down to the stream or something, because it is just muddy is all that is. And then in the driveway up here, which probably tomorrow I'll be able to park the SUV down in the main part, it's all super muddy there too. So we'll have to get some gravel, see what the budget allows for before we move. So far we have not sold our other house. So far there's only been that one showing, but we can only really do showings on the weekends. And as it's been, every single weekend has had terrible weather, like massive blizzard, extremely cold temperatures where the real feels are like -20, things of that nature. Basically, we picked a really terrible time frame to put our house on the market, but it is what it is. I mean, we're not derailing our plans. We're just gonna keep marching forward. So anyways, that's it for today. I've got a ton of work to do inside. I'm gonna work on putting some more canning jars away, because that's been the name of the game this week, is hauling jars here. So that has been exhausting. We'll just say it that way. It's been exhausting, and it's been hard with having to park the SUV way up there. I've been using this little green sled here to haul boxes of stuff all the way to the house. So it is nice that I only have to pick them up once, and then I set them down, and then I just, let gravity sort of carry the sled this way. But it also is very difficult because it is hard on my back to keep bending over all the way to the ground level to then picking up heavy loads and setting heavy loads down. It is not been fun. So anyways, that's it for today. I'm gonna go inside, work on doing my favorite job of all, actually, and that is trim painting. So we got a mattress delivered yesterday to the house, so I'm going to finish trim painting in the bedroom, the temporary bedroom that we have. So then before I leave, I can cut the mattress open, because it takes several days for them to come back to life from being vacuum sealed. So got that in place. Thankfully it was on sale. It was only like $400, I think, for this mattress. And when we bought the same one 3 years ago, when we moved into our old house, our current house, whatever, it was, I think, like $700 or $800. So it's not a bad mattress. It'll get the job done. The reason we aren't moving the mattress from the other house is because of how the stairs are. You can't get a big mattress up there. You can't get a king up there. It was hard to get a full up there, actually. So the only way that we can get our mattress down from up there is to cut it, and that kind of ruins the goodness of a mattress if you gotta cut it open. So we'll have to cut it, use the freaking grinder in the bedroom to then cut through the springs to. It's ridiculous. It's so much of our path, so much of our journey, so much of our lives so far has just been like, if I could phrase it up in one word, ridiculous. So, but things are definitely turning around for us. Things are definitely shifting, definitely changing, definitely. I can feel it in my bones, just how much better, how much of an improvement life is going to be for us just getting here, just being able to move here, even though there's, a shit ton of work that needs done. It's going to be much easier to have all of my energy just in one place, and I'm not spending so much time just the back and forth and the back and forth and the back and forth, and it's hard. It's been really hard. It's been ridiculous. That's about all I can say. So anyways, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Have a good one, guys.